When life has got you in a slump, turn to these inspirational short stories. Not only is watching them like getting an internet hug for the soul, but they just may spark an idea or a change in you for the better. Here are 10 short stories you didn't know you needed to hear today. 10 motivational and inspiring short stories. Number 1. The Elephant Rope. As a man was passing the elephants, he suddenly stopped, confused by the fact that these huge creatures were being held by only a small rope tied to their front leg. No chains, no cages. It was obvious that the elephants could, at any time, break away from their bonds, but for some reason, they did not. He saw a trainer nearby and asked why these animals just stood there and made no attempt to get away. "Well," trainer said, "when they are very young and much smaller, we use the same size rope to tie them, and, at that age, it's enough to hold them. As they grow up, they are conditioned to believe they cannot break away. They believe the rope can still hold them, so they never try to break free." The man was amazed. These animals could at any time break free from their bonds, but because they believed they couldn't, they were stuck right where they were. Like the elephants, how many of us go through life hanging onto a belief that we cannot do something, simply because we failed at it once before? Failure is part of learning. We should never give up the struggle in life. Number 2. Potatoes, eggs, and coffee beans. Once upon a time, a daughter complained to her father that her life was miserable and that she didn't know how she was going to make it. She was tired of fighting and struggling all the time. It seemed just as one problem was solved, another one soon followed. Her father, a chef, took her to the kitchen. He filled 3 pots with water and placed each on a high fire. Once the 3 pots began to boil, he placed potatoes in 1 pot, eggs in the 2nd pot, and ground coffee beans in the 3rd pot. He then let them sit and boil, without saying a word to his daughter. The daughter moaned and impatiently waited, wondering what he was doing. After 20 minutes, he turned off the burners. He took the potatoes out of the pot and placed them in a bowl. He pulled the eggs out and placed them in a bowl. He then ladled the coffee out and placed it in a cup. Turning to her, he asked, "Daughter, what do you see?" "Potatoes, eggs, and coffee," she hastily replied. "Look closer," he said, and touched the potatoes. She did and noted that they were soft. He then asked her to take an egg and break it. After pulling off the shell, she observed the hard-boiled egg. Finally, he asked her to sip the coffee. Its rich aroma brought a smile to her face. "Father, what does this mean?" she asked. He then explained that the potatoes, the eggs and coffee beans had each faced the same adversity, the boiling water. However, each one reacted differently. The potato went in strong, hard, and unrelenting, but in boiling water, it became soft and weak. The egg was fragile, with the thin outer shell protecting its liquid interior until it was put in the boiling water. Then the inside of the egg became hard. However, the ground coffee beans were unique. After they were exposed to the boiling water, they changed the water and created something new. "Which are you?" he asked his daughter. "When adversity knocks on your door, how do you respond? Are you a potato, an egg, or a coffee bean?" Moral: in life, things happen around us, things happen to us, but the only thing that truly matters is what happens within us. Which one are you? Number 3. Value. A popular speaker started off a seminar by holding up a $20 bill. A crowd of 200 had gathered to hear him speak. He asked, "Who would like this $20 bill?" 200 hands went up. He said, "I am going to give this $20 to one of you, but first, let me do this." He crumpled the bill up. He then asked, "Who still wants it?" All 200 hands were still raised. "Well," he replied, "what if I do this?" Then he dropped the bill on the ground and stomped on it with his shoes. He picked it up, and showed it to the crowd. The bill was all crumpled and dirty. Now who still wants it? All the hands still went up. My friends, I have just showed you a very important lesson. No matter what I did to the money, you still wanted it because it did not decrease in value. It was still worth $20. Many times in our lives, Life crumples us and grinds us into the dirt. We make bad decisions or deal with poor circumstances. We feel worthless. But no matter what has happened or what will happen, you will never lose your value. You are special, don't ever forget it. Number 4. A very special bank account. Imagine you had a bank account that deposited $86,400 each morning. The account carries over no balance from day to day, allows you to keep no cash balance, and every evening cancels whatever part of the amount you had failed to use during the day. What would you do? Draw out every dollar each day. We all have such a bank. Its name is time. Every morning, it credits you with 86,400 seconds. Every night it writes off, as lost, whatever time you have failed to use wisely. It carries over no balance from day to day. It allows no overdraft, so you can't borrow against yourself or use more time than you have. Each day, the account starts fresh. Each night, it destroys an unused time. If you fail to use the day's deposits, it's your loss and you can't appeal to get it back. There is never any borrowing time. You can't take a loan out on your time or against someone else's. The time you have is the time you have, and that is that. Time management is yours to decide how you spend the time, just as with money you decide how you spend the money. It is never the case of us not having enough time to do things, but the case of whether we want to do them and where they fall in our priorities. Number 5. The dean schooled them. One night, 4 college kids stayed out late, partying and having a good time. They paid no attention to the test they had scheduled for the next day and didn't study. In the morning, they hatched a plan to get out of taking their test. They covered themselves with grease and dirt and went to the dean's office. Once there, they said they had been to a wedding the previous night, and on the way back they got a flat tire and had to push the car back to campus. The dean listened to their tale of woe and thought. He offered them a retest 3 days later. They thanked him and accepted his offer that time. When the test day arrived, they went to the dean. The dean put them all in separate rooms for the test. They were fine with this since they had all studied hard. Then they saw the test. It had 2 questions. Question number 1. Your name. For 1 point. Question number 2. Which tire burst? For 99 points. Choose one answer. Letter A. Front left. Letter B. Front right. Letter C. Back left. Letter D. Back right. The lesson: always be responsible and make wise decisions. Number 6. The right place. A mother and a baby camel were lying around under a tree. Then the baby camel asked, "Why do camels have humps?" The mother camel considered this and said, "We are desert animals, so we have the humps to store water so we can survive with very little water." The baby camel thought for a moment, then said, "Okay, why are our legs long and our feet rounded?" The mama replied, "They are meant for walking in the desert." The baby paused. After a beat, the camel asked, "Why are our eyelashes long?" "Sometimes they get in my way." The mama responded, "Those long thick eyelashes protect your eyes from the desert sand when it blows in the wind." The baby thought and thought. Then he said, "I see. So the hump is to store water when we are in the desert, the legs are for walking through the desert, and these eyelashes protect my eyes from the desert. Then why are we in the zoo?" The lesson: skills and abilities are only useful if you are in the right place at the right time. Otherwise they go to waste. Number 7. Everyone has a story in life. A 24-year-old boy seeing out from the train's window shouted, "Dad, look, the trees are going behind." Dad smiled, and a young couple sitting nearby looked at the 24-year-old's childish behavior with pity. Suddenly, the boy again exclaimed, "Dad, look, the clouds are running with us." The couple couldn't resist and said to the old man, "Why don't you take your son to a good doctor?" The old man smiled and said, "I did. And we are just coming from the hospital. My son was blind from birth. He just got his eyes today." Every single person on the planet has a story. Don't judge people before you truly know them. The truth might surprise you. Number 8. Shake off your problems. A man's favorite donkey falls into a deep precipice. He can't pull it out no matter how hard he tries. He therefore decides to bury it alive. Soil is poured onto the donkey from above. The donkey feels the load, shakes it off, and steps on it. More soil is poured. It shakes it off and steps up. The more the load was poured, the higher it rose. By noon, the donkey was grazing in green pastures. Moral: after much shaking off of problems and stepping up, learning from them, one will graze in green pastures. Number 9. Colonel Sanders. Kentucky Fried Chicken. Once there was an old man who was broke, living in a tiny house and owned a beat-up car. He was living off of $99 Social Security checks. At 65 years of age, he decided things had to change. So he thought about what he had to offer. His friends raved about his chicken recipe. He decided that this was his best shot at making a change. He left Kentucky and traveled to different states to try to sell his recipe. He told restaurant owners that he had a mouth-watering chicken recipe. He offered the recipe to them for free, just asking for a small percentage on the items sold. Sounds like a good deal, right? Unfortunately, not to most of the restaurants. He heard no over 1,000 times. Even after all of those rejections, he didn't give up. He believed his chicken recipe was something special. He got rejected 1,009 times before he heard his first yes. With that one success, Colonel Heartland Sanders changed the way Americans eat chicken. Kentucky Fried Chicken, popularly known as KFC, was born. Remember, never give up and always believe in yourself in spite of rejection. Number 10. A dish of ice cream. In the days when an ice cream sundae cost much less, a 10-year-old boy entered a hotel coffee shop and sat at a table. A waitress put a glass of water in front of him. "How much is an ice cream sundae?" "50 cents, replied the waitress. The little boy pulled his hand out of his pocket and studied a number of coins in it. "How much is a dish of plain ice cream?" he inquired. Some people were now waiting for a table and the waitress was a bit impatient. 35 cents, she said brusquely. The little boy again counted the coins. "I'll have the plain ice cream," he said. The waitress brought the ice cream, put the bill on the table and walked away. The boy finished the ice cream, paid the cashier and departed. When the waitress came back, she began wiping down the table and then swallowed hard at what she saw. There, placed neatly beside the empty dish, were 15 cents. Her tip. What did you think about these stories? Comment on the section below. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed and learned something new from my channel. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, as I will be releasing new content every week. See you again soon.